let me first start. We've spoken a lot about modernization, how our products help with modernization. And as I'm sure a lot of you are looking at modern integration strategies, such as API-first approaches, using cloud-native technologies, looking at microservices architectures, adopting Kubernetes, and so on, right? And I'm sure you have a lot of questions about best practices and so on. So our panelists today, they're all customers of WSO2. All of them have implemented or are adopting modern cloud-native strategies or modern integration strategies in some form or the other. And we'd like to get their perspective on how adopting such strategies has helped them build scalable, data-driven businesses, agile, scalable, data-driven businesses today. So let me introduce them one by one. We first have Walter over here. Walter works as a technology consultant for the Swiss government. He has helped them with many digital transformation or digitization initiatives across the Swiss government. We have Toby Van Willigen. Toby works for HTM. He's a solutions architect there. So HTM is the public transport agency in The Hague in the Netherlands. We have Kristen Pruitt. Kristen is an AVP at Pekin Insurance. We had Amy Bingham speaking about Pekin Insurance earlier today. Kristen works closely with Amy and overlooks their data and middleware platform, or data and infrastructure and middleware. And finally, we have Pedro Marangoni. Pedro works for Atruvia as an API. He owns the API program at Atruvia. And Atruvia is the digitization partner of the German cooperative financial group. So let's get started. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Let's get started. So I guess before we kind of dive into what kind of strategies you adopted, first, when you're adopting a modern integration strategy or any type of change, there is generally a catalyst for change. Change is hard. You need to convince people of why you need to change, right? So there's generally a pain point that leads to you making a decision to change. So I'd like to kind of understand from each of your perspectives what those pain points were and how it kind of led to you deciding to make a change in your organization, looking at a new integration strategy. Walter, would you like to go first?
Yes, thank you. To make it short, the key reason was pain. So the point is, the workload of the organization was increasing over 100% over a short period, and the processes were not adjusted. The staff was increased. But the performance was decreasing comparable to the increase of the workload, the revenue also, and staff turnover we saw, and most important, some articles in the press, negative articles, and in the end, there were so many issues that it was clear that more of the same was not an issue, was not an option. So change in method was necessary. And funny was that 10 years ago, it was already visible that in some time there must be a change. And a smart business analyst has shown a roadmap how to improve. Automatization was at this time the keyword, and it was always, and this was an issue, it was always seen as an IT project. Business said doesn't. It's not for me. It's IT stuff. And this was in the beginning an issue. So this was the real point. And for a project manager, is a perfect situation. So you have really a green field. You can do everything.
Thanks, Walter. Kristen, I know, just go to you next. I know Amy spoke a lot about some of the issues, but I think it would be good to kind of get your perspective as well and kind of understand what those pain points were from you.
Yeah, I think Amy addressed the catalyst that got us approval to move forward, and that was information security risk, because we had 2 versions, unsupported end of life in our environment for our 2 different companies, as well as expenses, right? It was really expensive. But from an IT perspective, I'll kind of dig a little bit deeper. We did want to modernize. So even though we maybe didn't get the yes for modernization, we took the opportunity to address our monolithic integrations that had a ton of embedded logic and really no documentation to speak of, and really tried to address the modernization needs that we had. As well as from an IT perspective, we did have a perceived or real feeling that we had had a degradation in service in our platform. So, we had to do things that seem silly now. Like every Sunday we had to reboot just in case. So from an IT perspective, as well as a business perspective, our goals aligned and we were able to really do a lot of great things.
Thanks, Christian. And Pedro, from your perspective, I guess financial services kind of similar to insurance as well in that aspect, right? What was the main catalyst for your organization?
I think it's twofold catalyst because we have, of course, the new products versions from WSO2. We are running WSO2 products since more or less 18 years. Then we need to follow and keep updating our stuff. And of course, to try to adopt the cloudification strategy because of course, as a bank, old bank, we have mainframes, we have a lot of different stuff, but still, from architectural point of view, we need to innovate. We need to go to the cloud. We need to build microservices as a container-based service. Then I think these 2 main points and about modernization infrastructure, but as well keep it stable and then prepare for the future. We have big plans for the future, of course. Then. Try to deploy and do stuff in a beautiful way in the cloudification, but it's still a lot of challenges. But still, then take a look at the future and to be able to adopt new technologies, AI, and so on.
Thanks, Pedro. I think we'd love to come back to that point about what the future holds. But Toby, from your perspective, again, public sector. What were the main pain points? I know you all deal with a lot of data in real time as well. So
yeah, we had a lot of pain points as well. And like the other ones already said, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, I think. Because there are so many pain points, people are more intrinsically motivated to go through the change, which helps with the change. Change just to change is not necessarily, you have to put in a lot of effort to make that work. Yeah.
So I guess pain is a little, it's
a nice motivator. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now we've decided we want to make a change, right? And we are looking at what we could do. Toby, from your perspective, can we kind of understand what strategies you're adopting? I know you're looking at a lot in terms of again, coming back to the data, you need to get data from your trams into your systems and get that data fast to make real-time decisions almost, right? It'd be kind of good to kind of get your perspective on the decision-making process there in terms of what you're doing and what benefits you see those strategies providing.
So I wasn't there when we initially chose for WSO2, but what we see now is that we still have a lot to do. We started integrating the main components for our systems. But for example, being truly data-driven, so having the data from the trams to your asset management system, straight onto your, in our case, exploitation management system, and onto the website, the passengers, etc. That's still a long way to go. We just have to take small steps at a time.
And Walt, I know when you came to our offices last year, you spoke about basically not having access, or one of the catalysts was not having access to data, right? So can you kind of talk about how you broke down those data silos using integration, using modern integration strategies, and how it has helped the government agencies that you work with?
So the starting point was we used for the modernization transformation a holistic approach. These are 3 parts: technical part, organizational part and let's say a change management part, cultural part. And for the technological part, it was the idea to bring the data to the people, provide an environment for the people that they can do their work at best. And we decided also to use existing applications. So, and there was a problem. These were monoliths, the huge applications. And in a desperate moment, because I've seen how expensive and how time-consuming it is to get out data from these monoliths. They are very good perfectly in grabbing data, but not getting out data. And at one time I sat together with some guys from Integon, and they told me about WSO2. And instead of thinking in releases next year, the year after, we thought about just a few weeks. It was 2 or 3 months. We've done all the work to get all the data from different applications, from the portal, for the customer portal, from the financial accounting system, from some cloud systems, to the workplace of a legal expert, that he can decide and can do his work. This was the key point. And organizational change, this is extremely important, because in the end, we need to change management. We need to communicate very concise and clearly to the staff, and to get them on board. And the change management, even the management, we need to convince that transformation will not end. It will be an ongoing task. And also, yesterday we've heard about software company. It's now a part of software.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good point, because being modern is relative, right? Modernization is not a one-time thing. It's something you need to continuously work at in order to stay modern. So Kristen, we always love to talk about how customers move to WSO2 from our competitors, but we won't go into that because Amy spoke about that before. But now that you are on WSO2, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with regard to WSO2, but just want to kind of understand what you see as your next steps in terms of your modernization efforts.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to use this as an opportunity to tell you what we've been able to do since we've been on it. And again, we are still immature. We have a long way to go. But the strategy to move to microservices has allowed us to share things across our company. So I know Amy told you guys we have a property casualty company and a life company, and they run very differently. Well, we're right now in the middle of building a fantastic customer portal, and the APIs are going to be shared across life and P&C. So I'm really proud of that. And that's been a big goal for us, to have more consistency across. So we're going to keep doing more of that. Certainly I've seen a bunch of things at the conference that, we're definitely going to look into.
Thank you. And Pedro, from your perspective, I know you spoke about moving to the cloud, Kubernetes. Can you kind of explain that thought process as well, and kind of help us understand what the benefits of such a move could be in the longer term for your organization?
Yes, of course. I think I'm from developer world, of course, then more or DevOps community, I would say. But I think the move is, of course, the pain was try to connect the dots inside our organization. So because we have the strategy to go to the cloud, and of course try to maintain this kind of, in the future, a hybrid environment in private cloud, on-prem, and public cloud maybe. So this move aims like to adopt the new technologies and some kind of scalability. Because if you are planning to have all the company talking as microservice basis, of course, then you need to prepare it, and you need to clear onboard everybody. And then the next move will be, of course, keep going with the mindset, with the cloud mindset, and explain to every guy, it's okay, it's not that difficult. And of course, we have problems with pipelines. It's not that easy to change this mindset, the culture, as we have heard yesterday. But in the future, we need to maintain some kind of hybrid cloud, and I hope so that WSO2, of course, will keep us informed with the new technologies and try to help us, developers and pipelines, just try to integrate stuff easily.
Thanks. And Pedro, I'd like to expand a little bit on that move to being hybrid, right? Because I think that is in order to overcome one of the challenges that we spoke about yesterday, which is the fact that with the possibility of there could be the chance of sanctions or like from the US, right, in terms of like what clouds you can use and so on. And I know there's a lot of uncertainty in Europe. You're looking at alternate options in terms of how to manage your deployments, where to deploy and so on. So can you just talk a little bit about the challenges that you're facing in that aspect and how you're kind of looking to mitigate that?
A lot of communication, of course. As I said, we need to connect the dots. We need to convince from the developers, from the architectures, from security, because we are an API team, but we need to deploy everything ourselves. We have end-to-end responsibility from outside to communication inside the company. And it's a kind of... this is, of course, a big movie, and we need a lot of support from different stakeholders. And I see that we need really small groups with different mindsets. You need to talk to, since a lot of with the basis of implementing stuff to the stakeholders. And then with a big company, it's not that easy to implement stuff, but it's still, we see some kind of opportunities in this scenario. And we need to really, of course, try it hard on the beginning, try to understand our needs, but sometimes in a heterogeneous environment, it's still really complicated to connect the different systems.
And so, Toby, I know you mentioned that you all were actually looking at extending from the cloud to on-premise to kind of address these challenges. So, it'd be good to kind of get your perspective on that.
Yeah, so we started small, and the easiest thing to implement was something in the cloud, something to do with customers. It was a new system we had, so it had lots of integrations. But the thing is, we can't not have the buses and trams run in The Hague. They have to run. The government of the Netherlands is there. The NATO top will be there in the summer. They have to run. So we have some systems on-premise, which are mostly the mission-critical systems. But if you didn't look at the data flow of how it goes, it has to be fit for purpose. So it doesn't make sense to set up an integration that first goes to Azure and then comes back, because both the systems are actually running on-premise. That again, for customer-facing applications, it makes much more sense to put it in the cloud, because it scales so nicely. And if it rains, then our website gets flooded with requests. So fit for purpose, I guess.
Thanks, Toby. Just trying to dig a little deeper into the challenges, and Christian, I'll point this question to you. I know the migration was completed, but I know we spoke about it earlier today as well. Like, modernization is hard, right? It's not easy. There will always be something that comes up, something that's unexpected. Could you just kind of explain to us what the biggest challenges you have faced or the biggest challenge you have faced so far, what it was, and how you and your team overcame that challenge?
Yeah, I think for us, the biggest challenge that we faced is that our integrations were written by a vendor partner, and that vendor partner was no longer part of our ecosystem. So when we went to move them and migrate them and understand them, there's no documentation, no expertise, really didn't even understand how to validate them. And so I would like to say that we came up with a really great way to deal with that, but we did not. We had to learn them. We made mistakes, we grew, and I think we're far better off because we did the hard work. But yes, it was unexpected.
And Walter, from your perspective, again, I know you've worked across a few government agencies in Switzerland, right? Was there a common kind of challenge that you faced across these organizations, or was it kind of specific to each agency organization?
Yes. What I've seen is the technical issues we can resolve, we have resolved. It was hard work. There were many small issues, it's clear, but the technicians were sure somehow it can be fixed. The hard thing is change management, cultural change, to take all the people on board, to get the right understanding, to work with different departments. Mm-hmm. You need to talk to HR manager, completely different. You don't need to, or to the decision maker. If someone will tell them, we implement the API, the WSO2 API manager, he'll say, fine, but what? We need to say, okay, we have a tool which brings all the data to all your people and they can do the best work. And then he will give money. And to a technician, you need to talk in a different way. He need to, these are the real challenges to communicate the change, and they are often, transformations or digitalizations, and people don't use the new stuff. Mm-hmm. So,
sorry. Yeah. Thanks. No, I guess, you need to show people the business benefits. But I guess, Pedro, from your point of view, as someone who's hands-on, actively developing, what would it take to convince you to make a change? Like, for example, if Walter coming and telling you to use something is not going to change your mind, right? So what would it take to change your mind?
I think it's clear because, as we say today, developer, they work 1 hour. Maybe if you could work 4 hours, 5 hours without interruptions. But I think a clear overview, the goals, where should we move? Of course, the decisions come from stakeholders, but it's still sometimes we feel, okay, the next move may not work. And I think try to participate in the whole process and on the beginning, not in the middle of or only at the end, because at the end it may be complicated. And then if you are not motivated to use this new tool, this new solution, then of course you not move together. You try struggling with this over tooling, let's say, this then a new stuff today, new stuff tomorrow. Of course, modernization is a long process. You don't have an end, but still we say right now, start finishing some stuff. So let us finish some proof of concepts, whatever we are trying to do, finish it and try to compare maybe, but not really too fast, the new move, without thinking about, okay, we still are humans and we need some time to adapt. Of course, change is we need to change, we need to improve, but sometimes I think participating more in this whole process with the small groups and trying to understand the next move.
Thanks, Pedro. I'd like to get Kristen's perspective on that as well, because I understand the importance of getting buy-in at the start, or getting everyone's buy-in at the start. But then again, if you're trying to get the buy-in of, say, 20, 30 people, that's very unlikely to happen as well, right? So, as Kristen, from your point of view, kind of overlooking a program, how would you kind of go about getting that buy-in? I agree that buy-in is needed, but at what point do you kind of get that buy-in, and how?
Yeah, so that's a great question. You know, we had high-level buy-in, so from the top of our organization. So we had a lot of top-down support. And I think in the middle, right, a business and IT, I think everyone agreed this is the right thing to do. We should do this. But I think where we could have done better, and where I would suggest other people really focus on trying to make sure that everyone understands what it means. Because it's one thing to say, yes, I agree, this is a financially advantageous thing to do, we should do it. It's another thing when you're impacting other business priorities if you didn't understand really what it was going to take, and really sitting down and explaining that to people. I had a business peer that said something to me that it really stuck with me. She said, Kristen, if I would have really understood how much money this was going to save, I would have taken my items off of the priority list so we could focus on it. And I think that is change something in me internally, that making sure you have those conversations, helping everyone understand, and so you can work on it together. Yeah.
Thanks, Kristen. I think we have time for another round of questions, but I just wanted to see if anyone in the audience had a question before that. We would love to hear from you as well, or any perspectives that you would like to share in terms of anything that you've been working on. Okay. All right, we can come back in case anyone has a question. Okay, so just before we kind of close out, I know we've spoken a lot about AI today, or yesterday and today. There is a lot happening in the space, but it doesn't necessarily have to be AI. Just in terms of like emerging technologies, emerging trends, it would be great to kind of get each of your perspectives in terms of what it is that you're evaluating today, where you see your next adoption being in terms of like a modern kind of approach to integration, and just kind of explaining that to us. Walter, would you like to go first with that one?
Yes, we've already done an AI tool. We've integrated it. It's very important to know exactly what you want to do with it, how you want to do it, and for us, it was very important to have a transparency about what the AI tool will do, and we've integrated it in the workflow. This is very important, and I think AI is an hype, actually, but I compare it to the invention of the letterpress printing. It will change our life in a few years, when I'm thinking in 10 years from now.
And Pedro, from your perspective, I'm sure like financial services, for example, you could have AI agents helping with account onboarding processes or loan applications or whatever it may be, right? Have you all started looking at stuff like that?
I think we have started, of course, looking, but we don't have at least really concrete plans for now to apply it with our customers. Maybe in infrastructure, you can use AI to inspect your Kubernetes infrastructure, Kubernetes clusters, something like that. But still, there's a lot of space for us to invest, to look at AI solutions and maybe in the governance, in the pipelines to help us to figure out the best way of writing APIs, of course. Something like that, but we need to finish our stuff, a concrete basis with new versions, and then, of course, I think we'll move on and keep looking, at least try to understand and use AI in more scenarios. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Pedro. And Toby, what about from your perspective? Do you see yourself using?
Yeah, AI is a buzzword, but the technology behind it will definitely help. It's like one of the presenters earlier today said, it's basically an employee that's there 24/7 and can support you, all that kind of things. Yeah.
Thanks. And Kristen, finally, from your perspective, how do you see yourselves using it?
So, for being a mid-sized insurance carrier, our API strategy has to balance innovation, security, governance, compliance, and business value. And so the things that I see emerging that we'll be looking at are obviously AI and API management. Advanced observability is really important, as well as security, governance, compliance, things to help us.
Thanks, Kristen. Any questions from the audience before we close up? No? Okay, we'll do a 10-second takeaway from each of you before we close out, if that's okay. What would you like to share with the audience as a key takeaway? Walter, would you like to go first?
So, key takeaway, I think it's good to modernize. Every change is good, and to work on. In the end, our project, the revenue has increased 30%. the outcome, the people are more happy. There's no turnover anymore, and these things. So I think even we needed to simplify things more, reduce to the max. Be courageous.
Yeah.
Thank you. Be courageous. That's a good one. Toby, what about you?
Yeah, modernization is like security. It's never finished. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, just to keep it short because we're out of time. Just start. Just pick something and do it.
Yeah, more or less the same idea. Just start it and have some fun at the end. And then you say, okay, we did it. We could migrate. We could implement new stuff. I think then just focus on the goal, focus on the result. That okay, we can do it, and keep motivated in the whole process.
Thanks. Yeah, you stand still, you get left behind, right? Because someone else is doing it, even if you're not doing it. So awesome. Thanks, everyone. It was great. And thanks a lot for taking the time and joining us on stage today. Thanks to the audience as well. It was great having all of you here. And thanks for being a part of the integration track. The team is here. We're all here in case you have any questions.